Awesome. It's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Sarah Gianella, who's a clinical and translational virologist and one of the co-leads of the Last Gift program, which is really a groundbreaking initiative that explores HIV persistence in tissues through the end-of-life research. She's the director of the CFAR Translational Virology Core and the ACTG San Diego Virology Specialty Laboratory, where she really plays a key role in advancing research and treatment strategies. Her work focuses on understanding HIV reservoirs, the impact of co-infections, and the ethical dimensions of biomedical research. And she's really committed to community engagement and health equity. And she ensures that research is conducted with transparency, integrity, and meaningful collaborations with both participants and loved ones. I'm going to hand it over to you, Sarah. Dr. Gianella is an absolute amazing, honestly, researcher, and I've been lucky to, here and there get to work with you. So I'm going to hand it to you.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Leah, for the kind introduction. And I'm always excited when I get invited to talk about the last gift because obviously I love everything I do, but if there is one study that I'm particularly excited and proud of, and if there is one study that defined, my career, and I think really all the work that we are doing in our lab and as a team, that's the last gift. And so I always like to talk about it. Today I will give you like a lesson learned. So I will not focus only really on the tissue work, but really in a more holistic way about what we can learn from the last gift, from the team and the participants. And yes, how was the last gift born? So we all know that HIV established this reservoir across tissue right after HIV acquisition. So basically HIV, like days to 1 week after someone acquires HIV, it spreads everywhere, not only in blood, like in every tissue you can think about. It's heart or lung or lymph node or gut. And it plays hide and seek. And this is why, even when people are on antiretroviral therapy for many, many, many years, and then if they interrupt antiretroviral therapy, the virus comes back with, very few exceptions, but really that's what happens with the vast majority of people. And so there is a lot of us that are interested in finding a cure for HIV, but really if we want to find a cure, step number 1 will be to understand how the HIV hides and where it hides across the tissue. And this is not easy to do. So first of all, because when we study living people, there is only so much tissue that we can access, right? We can do some small biopsy, but we can't, access a brain or a beating heart, or we can't do big resection of guts. And for autopsy study, we know there are autopsy studies that have been around for a long time, even in people with HIV, but for logistical reasons, they often don't have, a very solid characterization before that. This means that the clinical visits are done like 3 to 6 months before that. And so sometimes we don't know, when people took their last antiretroviral therapy or what medication they were really on. And more importantly, autopsy are rarely performed quick enough to have really the high quality tissue that we need to do some of the assay that we are proposing or that we are doing as part of the last gift. And this is how in 2017, David Smith, who is the PI of the last gift, he came up with this idea and he said, why we don't enroll altruistic people with HIV who have a life-shortening illness like cancer or cardiovascular disease or any neurologic disease. We follow them really, really closely until the time of death, and then we perform a rapid research autopsy. And when we talk about the rapid autopsy, mostly we talk about 6 hours from death. Usually, like, we are done with the autopsy within 6 hours from death. And there are not many rapid autopsy programs in the US. I think it's less than 20. And all of them, except for us, are really either in cancer or in neurodegenerative disease. And so they're very focused on, one tissue type. Like, for example, if you do cancer, then you collect cancer, surrounding lymph node, maybe metastasis, but that's it, right? What makes the last gift so special is that really we're interested in every single tissue type. And this is why it has not been easy to set up this program. Like, it's something that we are still right now, after many years of doing it, we are still learning and optimizing and tweaking the protocol. But really, even only setting up the program has been like a major accomplishment, I feel. And I will talk a little bit more about it, and I will also show you some picture about how that works. So why are we focusing on terminally ill volunteers? Like, first of all, because of the possibility to donating tissue for this rapid research autopsy, like, when people enroll, we follow them for a limited amount of time, but very closely. Obviously, we don't have the resources to follow, hundreds of people. This is what makes the last gift so special. These people are really altruistic, and they are, they really want to give back to their community. The vast majority of people that enroll in Last Gift are long-term survivor. These are people that have been living with HIV for decades. These are people that, have been living the whole epidemic, that they remember, they lost a lot of people that they loved to HIV. And they are now really literally dying to give back to the community. So the altruistic component is huge. And again, we will talk more about it. And there is an absence of expectation to direct clinical benefit. So everyone that enrolls in the Last Gift, they contribute purely out of altruistic reasons. Obviously nobody expects to be cured in their lifetime. And there is very limited opportunity for these people to participate to HIV research. And, basically bringing this together, this as a unique opportunity to create this novel translational research model to advanced HIV cure research at the end of life. So here, this is a table to give you a little bit of an idea about the demographic of the people that already passed as part of Last Gift. We did do 6 autopsies in the last months. So we are now up to 36 autopsies. So this is not completely up to date, but just to give you an idea, the vast majority of our participants are white males, which is a little bit sad, but it's also kind of not surprising, because this is most of the demographics that we have in Southern California. And the vast majority of people die of solid cancer, but we also have, end-stage organ disease. We had 3 ALS, and we have, we have a variety of reasons, but most of them usually die of cancer. And here is the demographic of the people that are currently enrolled. And what I wanted to point out is that we did a big push to try to diversify within the limits that we can. And in fact, we were able to enroll more women, and we were also able to enroll some Black participants, which, it is important, because if we want to cure HIV from everyone, we do need to make sure that we understand differences also between ethnicities and sex, of course. And then, and here is to give you again an idea about how long people stay on study. Ideally, we'd like people to be on study for some months, so that we can really collect some data before that. But there is a huge range, right? There are some people that they enter the Last Gift, it looks like they are dying, and then they survive for many years. there are people that they enter their last gift and they die within a few days. So we don't have as much data as we would like. But I will say, our goal usually is like between 3 and 6 months of follow-up time. And this is a figure that I always like to show to give an idea about the granularity of the data that we are able to collect as part of Last Gift. This is Last Gift 1. This was a participant that interrupted antiretroviral therapy. And so we were able to draw blood the day before he died. And he even rebounded. So you can imagine the value of having this blood and then the body within 12 hours from each other, and how we can compare, HIV and the immune response between tissue and blood. And our goal is really every time, if we can, to collect blood, if not the day of death, the day before. And that's incredibly unique from Last Gift. So here is a picture about the rapid autopsy and the logistics behind it. So basically, not almost everyone in my team is on call 24/7. It's voluntary, but what is amazing is that everyone participates. And I feel that this is really a testament about the power of Last Gift and how everyone feels compelled to be part of it, and how much it means to the team to be able to fulfill this wish of the participant. And so when someone dies, the next of kin calls us immediately within a few minutes. And then there is really a cascade of events that need to happen for us to pick up the body, to check it in, to bring it to the morgue. And then the whole team wakes up, because obviously most autopsy happens in the night, and we rush to the morgue, and then we start doing the autopsy. We always do a minute of silence, which is very important to me because I feel it really sets the tone of the autopsy. And we read this acknowledgement to the participant. And then we do a minute of silence, and this kind of grounds the team. And then we start, and then usually it takes between 3 and 4 hours to collect all of the tissue. We usually exit the morgue with over 1,000 tubes. They are in SNAP frozen, in RNA later, in media, and then these tubes some of them we keep in our lab for our own research, and most of them get sent to our collaborator that do very meaningful research as well. And then I also want to say that once we leave the morgue, there is at least another 6 to 8 hours of work in the lab, because we have to, scan all of the tubes and then prepare the shipping and wait for the courier. We found a courier that picks up tissue 24/7, even in the middle of the night, and then they drive the tissue to the closest airport, and sometimes it's in LA, and then they take the first flight. And here is a map of our collaborators that, get to work with Last Gift tissues. Some of them are fresh, some of them are stored, but basically every time we have an autopsy, fresh tissue goes to all people that we work with. And then they start their own tissue processing journey, which usually is another 8 to 10 hours of work to isolate the cells and run all of the assay on the fresh tissue. So again, like what makes the Last Gift so special is that it's such a participant-centered program, right? From the very beginning, before we even started the Last Gift, we engaged with the community. There is not one piece of the Last Gift, there is not one change in the protocol that happened that the community is not aware of and part of. And there are some of our participants that are so proud to be part of Last Gift that they give us permission to share their story. And I feel like that's so unique, right? Because when we do research, most of the time we learn like we have to protect the identity and everything is HIPAA protected. And And what makes the last gift so special is that participants are so proud to be part of it that they want their story to be told. And here on the left, you see Tony. Tony's last gift one. He had ALS, and he was referred to us by Ron Ellis, by the way. We were not even really ready to start Last Gift, and he already had his first referral. One of many. He's one of our superstar, physician. And Tony is amazing. Like, he was so patient with us as we were trying to figure out the logistic. He loved seeing us. I know that every time we were visiting him, he was always asking the hospice nurse to shave his beard because he wanted to be his best self. And in this picture, you can see him with his partner, Blake, husband Blake, and another family member. We are still in contact with Blake. We did organize a community get together last year. Blake came and he still remembers all of us and how much being part of Last Gift meant to him and Tony. Here we have Mike Danielson. He actually also had ALS, which is interesting. And he was a publicist in LA. He had the absolute best story about all of the famous people. Like, he knew Angelina Jolie and Denzel Washington. We loved sitting down with him in his patio, listen to the story and drinking two Starbucks coffees. And he was a big Last Gift proponent and advocate. And then, so I just added this picture yesterday. This is Jim. Jim has been a long-term community member, and he just passed last month, and he was Last Gift 16. He's part of the community advisory board, so he was part of the group of people that advised Last Gift from the very beginning, and he was single-handed the advocate that convinced us to create a on-deck track for Last Gift, where we enroll people that are not yet completely terminally ill, but that they have a disease that is life-shortening. And he was our first on-deck participant. Even as he went through his disease and he became sicker and sicker, every time we went and visit him, his first question was always, "How are you?" He wanted to make sure that we were fine. And this is his wife, Susan. We are very close to both of them. Yesterday, we had Jim's celebration of life at Christie's Place. And we all miss him, but it's incredible. And yesterday, Susan, during the celebration of life, she did share the whole time. She was talking about Last Gift and how much it meant to her and to Jim to be part of it, and how much, being part of Last Gift eased the whole process. Okay, so the Last Gift has a big community component, ethics component, social behavioral component. And I think that this is what sets us apart from a lot of study. And I think that this is one of the big lessons learned from Last Gift, is really that when the community is on board, everything gets better. And when we started the Last Gift, I don't think we planned, like, we didn't even dream what a big of a deal it will become. Not only from a scientific point of view, but really for the community and how much the community will be involved. So Karina Dubé, she has single-handed, driven the whole ethics and community component. She has published so many papers. She's so prolific. And again, like, every time the Last Gift had a roadblock, every time we had to justify our existence, the community has been our strongest advocate. And I do really strongly believe that this is what made the Last Gift so special and great. So I wanted to show you some of the common themes from Corinne's interviews. So as we always interview all of our Last Gift participants before they die. I think there is really, without exception, everyone that is part of Last Gift loves being part of Last Gift. Like there is a huge sense of meaningful legacy compassion. Like I kind of hate usually to talk about family when we talk about study and work, because I feel like it's an exaggeration, but maybe not in the last gift. Like yesterday when we did Jim's celebration of life, that's what Susan kept saying, like the last gift for me is family. And maybe because we really enter someone's life in a moment that is so unique, that's when they are dying, and we are there and we make everything in our power to make the process as easy as possible. And so we have the best team ever on the ground. And so the relationship that it gets created between the study participant, the last gift team, and the next of kin is so unique that uh, sometimes it does really feel like family. We have like a huge collection of quotes from last gift participants. These are really only some of it, but every time I know that the people that transcribe the interviews, they very often, end in tears, just because we have so many powerful quotes that sometimes when we have to pick one, we don't even know where to start, because like the sense of purpose and meaning that the participant uh, feel, it's something that we did not understand when we started last gift. So we didn't start the last gift thinking that we would make such a difference in the participants' life, and now it's kind of almost the biggest part of it. So we also interview all of the next of kin, like every participant chooses a next of kin loved one. Obviously, it doesn't need to be a blood related. It can be a friend or a partner. And these are the person that we connect with. Like we understood very early in the process how important it is to have a connection with the next of kin, because these are the people that we call us, right? And if they don't remember to call us, then we can't do our rapid research autopsy. So this is why we have this deep connection with the next of kin. And even here, without exception, the next of kin understand how important the last gift is. They appreciate the communication, the professionalism of the team. And I will say, with very few exception, we are the first one that they call at the time of death, within minutes. And we also do quite a bit of work with the team. So you need to understand, that even if everyone is super engaged in the last gift, it takes a toll, right, on mental health, and the fact that we are on call 24/7, and we never know when we will get that call in the middle of the night. And, even going in a morgue and seeing, a body and being part of an autopsy is not crucial. It's not something that anyone can do, right? And so we did interviews and we did focus group, and now recently we started doing compassion training for every last gift staff member. They can participate in a 4-week compassion training. And then we have been doing survey before and after. And what I think that is really great is that despite the fact that we ask so much for them, they wouldn't want, like, they love being part of it, and they feel so supported, and they feel it's such a meaningful part of their job. So another point that I wanted to make, which I think was a big lesson learned from last gift, and I encourage everyone to go and read the editorial that we wrote a few years ago, is redefine the concept of vulnerability. So at the very beginning, when we started last gift, we got some pushback from some of the reviewer, right? Because they were thinking that, like we were approaching people during a very vulnerable moment of their life. And, maybe, they didn't know what they were signing up for, and we were kind of taking advantage of them. And in fact, the first time we submitted the grant, it didn't score well. And here is where the community really stood up for us very fiercely. And they said, you know what, that's bullshit. I shouldn't say it, but yes, but that's what they said. We are not vulnerable. Maybe you are vulnerable. That's your problem, but that's what we want to do, right? Why are you taking away this opportunity for us to participate in such an important study at the end of our life? We are dying, right? As long as, they are cognitively there, we shouldn't be deciding for them if they want or they don't want to donate their body and their tissues. And so we ended up writing this opinion piece where we were trying to redefine the concept of vulnerability, like if there is some concern about a participant, a category of participant that they might be vulnerable, taking away the opportunity to be part of the study is not the right thing to do. What we should really be doing is sit down with the community leader, and figure out what is the best way to propose that research, what is the best way to discuss about these topics that are difficult, right? It's difficult to talk about that. It's difficult to talk about autopsies. It's difficult to offer this opportunity, but because we did so much groundwork, the vast majority of the time that we approach someone, they end up enrolling in Last Gift. And right now we have more people that want to enroll that we can even take with the resource, and we get emails from all over the country. And unfortunately, right now we're really limited on enrolling people in San Diego because of the logistic of the rapid autopsy. Okay, so this first part was for everyone really to understand that, the Last Gift is a rapid autopsy program, yes, but there is so much more than just collecting tissue and, sending tissue out, right? Like the Last Gift is a very holistic program. The Last Gift is community and participant centered. The Last Gift is love, and the Last Gift empowers study participants. Now, obviously, like a big part of the Last Gift is that we are able to collect all of this tissue that have an incredibly high quality, and it provides a unique opportunity to perform, assay, which includes also collecting viable tissue and, very high quality RNA and DNA. I want to point out that sometimes, like we have tissue that are between 80 and 90% viability when we are lucky. It's not always the case, and there are many factors that affect viability. It's not only the time to that. It's really, there are a lot of factors that I don't even know, but very often, like when we always ask feedback about viability, and we get viability also 70 to 90% for some of our tissues, which is incredible, right? So, okay, what type of data are we generating? Like, first of all, we are able to quantify the reservoir across tissues. And here are some plots. Like you can see the level of granularity of the tissue that we are able to measure. Like these are two study participants. Here on the top is one participant that had a pancreatic cancer. So we can see we have high HIV DNA in the pancreas. And here there is another participant with higher HIV DNA in the gut and in lymph nodes. So we are basically characterizing the size, the activity of the reservoir across tissue in a very unique way. And here are HIV DNA level in the brain in particular. And you can see there is some interesting results about the spinal cord. One of our trainee, Mattia Trunfio, he ended up getting a pilot grant to dig a little bit deeper in the spinal cord, and he has an oral at Croix, so I encourage everyone to go and look. He has some very interesting data around the spinal cord. And so the next step is like we sequence the virus across the tissue, and then we can see how do the various viral population relate to each other? Like, do we have the same virus across the body, or are there differences in compartment, right? Here, for example, you can see this is a phylogenetic tree. Every dot is a virus, and we have different colors for different compartment. Just to give you an example, here we can see like there is a clonal expanded virus with different colors. So this means like the same virus across across the body. What happens? One hypothesis is that maybe there is a clone of cells that migrates across the body and brings the virus around. But it's kind of like a unique snapshot that we can provide thanks to the last gift. So Antoine Chaillon, he also developed these statistical methods to look at migration across the body. This means that he's using the sequence to try to predict migration of some virus from one part of the body to the other. And then he creates these beautiful figures where you can see that even in people that are on antiretroviral therapy, the reservoir is not like how to say, like a fixed, but there are still movement, right? Even in people that are suppressed, which to me, again, points to migration of cells across compartment and also across the blood-brain barrier, right? There are some viruses that migrate from the brain to the periphery and from the periphery back in the brain, even in people that are on suppressive antiretroviral therapy. So another application of this sequence is that we can use them to predict how the virus adapt and expand in response to the local environment. And here is another paper from Dr. Chaillon and other collaborators where he used the sequence to predict susceptibility of the virus to neutralization of neutralizing antibodies. Like they selected a range of neutralizing antibody that are used in clinical trials. And so they use the sequence to predict if the virus will be susceptible or resistant. So what we saw is that, the predicted susceptibility is really heterogeneous across tissue. Like in most of the time, if you are sensitive in blood, you are also sensitive in tissue, which is good news. But then there are some exceptions, right? Sometime we did found, or he did found, some provirus that was resistant to some of the neutralizing antibody in tissue. And you can see, right, like here in actually 3 participants, there was some virus in the brain that ended up being resistant to some of the neutralizing antibody and this couldn't be seen in blood, right? And this is important. And here is another figure where we show, the resistance pattern. This is important because if we design a curative intervention with a neutralizing antibody and we only test the blood, and then there is like a virus population hiding in the brain that is resistant, it might come back, right? And that's kind of everyone's worst nightmare, to go through the whole cure strategies, and then the virus comes back from a tissue compartment. Another really strong paper, like we have this amazing collaborator in North Carolina, Dr. Yang and Tang, and they were able to sort microglia from fresh brain, and then they co-culture these cells with T cells from people that don't have an HIV, and they were able to grow a virus from the microglia in the brain, but not from the T cells, by the way. And that virus that they grew was macrophage tropic. So very, very likely it was really coming from the microglia. And this is really the one more compelling evidence that there is a replication competent virus in the brain. And, I know that most people here believe it, otherwise you wouldn't be here at the NIMH talk probably. But there are still people out, that were not really convinced that HIV was a thing in the brain. And Dr. Young has been, trying to do this work for many, many years before he was able to access the last gift tissue sample. And since he's working with last gift, he was able to grow the virus, and he got like 2 R01s right now, where he's really analyzing the virus and all of the epigenetic mechanism that allow the virus to persist in the brain. So another collaboration that we had with Dr. Shaletsky, and this is again sorting microglia and doing single cell RNA-seq and attack-seq. And he was able here to detect HIV RNA and DNA in the microglia. And then he was able to compare, the inflammatory signature of the cells with and without DNA. And he was able to show that cells that have RNA, they have a different inflammatory phenotype with an upregulation on interferon stimulating genes. So I do really think that, this capacity to sort the alive cells and to do this ex vivo work is something that, to the best of my knowledge, with primary cell is almost only, possible with last gift tissue samples. And it's really a unique opportunity. We also have another collaboration, Dr. Nadia Rowan and Ashley George. They just published a paper in Cell Reports. They have been doing CyTOF work on all tissue. Like, it's kind of one of the most comprehensive immunological mapping of fresh tissue across the body in people with HIV. And CyTOF is like a flow cytometer, but much fancier, where they have like 37 unique markers, and they designed this panel with restriction factors and viral sensor, and they were really able to show that, in fact, in some tissue where there was a bigger viral presence, there was also an upregulation of these viral sensors. So that's a very cool paper that I really recommend reading. Okay, so the conclusion is, like, the last gift, obviously we can do a lot of very cool tissue work that is very difficult to do otherwise, right? Like, every time I wake up in the night, which is not my favorite thing to do, right? And then I see this work, I always tell myself, okay, it's worth it. Like, it's worth to wake up. It's worth to go and run to the morgue, because, the type of work that we can do is incredible. But I really believe that the last gift is so much more than just a tissue biorepository, right? The last gift is kind of a gold standard of a community-oriented participatory research model, where we empower the community and every single study participant to be part of what we are doing. We really challenge the paternalistic impulse to vulnerability. And it offers a unique opportunity to support clinical and translational research studies. So what we're doing right now, so first of all, we do recognize that one cure might not fit all, and even if it looks like there are a push against DEI this day, unfortunately. So really what we're trying to do is that diversify our program, and we are currently working actively with a site in South Africa and one in Brazil to try to reproduce the last gift model. And so that we can try to enroll more people of color, more women, and learn more about how the tissue distributes. And then from a future direction, and this is something that sounds crazy, but it's not, and this is something that the community really wants, is to try to introduce intervention at the end of life. Like, if we have a therapy and we need to know how does it distribute across tissue, will this therapy work in the brain? Like, these people, like the last gift participant, are willing to enroll in interventional therapy at the end of life, and then basically let us collect all of the tissue so that we can study penetration and efficacy of the drugs. And we had preliminary discussion with the FDA. We also had a town hall with the community and FDA representatives. The community has really advocated, and the FDA understands that this is something that needs to be done. And here are just some data from focus groups that Karine Dubé hold. And if you can see, right, like more than half of our last gift participants said that they will be willing to participate in all sorts of curative study at the end of life, and then let us access their tissue. And again, like if they do this, they do it for purely altruistic reasons, because obviously they know very well that they will not benefit from any of this. So, and here is a compilation of the pictures of, like our community event. This is Jim, just a few weeks before he died. Michael, this is the Last Gift team, our community representative. This is a trivia night we organized with the Last Gift team and Jim, because he just loved to hang out, and we loved to spend time with him. And then obviously the Last Gift, there is so many people that participate in Last Gift at so many levels, from the community to the outreach team, the rapid autopsy team, and all of our collaborators that generate this amazing data. And we couldn't be doing this without so much engagement.
That was phenomenal, Sarah. Thank you. I'm going to open it up. I know there are a lot of
I have a video. It's 8 minutes, but I think we should do
right.
first and then see because I don't want to run out of time for the questions.
Okay. Do folks want to unmute or raise their hand or?
Yeah. Yes, Ron. Actually, 3 of your patients with ALS. Where do you go from the information from the spinal cord?
I was actually, this is Andrea Johnson. I was actually getting this answered. As a woman living with HIV as well, when your participants go through this program, does the family, and after you're finished doing your autopsies and your studies, do you provide the body back to the families, or how do you, or is it they're in the program and then that's it? There's no closure for the family with regards to burial or anything of that nature?
No, that's a very good question. So what we provide, so the participant and the family has the choice, right? We can provide the body back if that's what they wish, if they want to do an open casket. We had 1 participant so far that requested it. Otherwise, what we do is we pay for the cremation cost and we provide the ashes back, and then we always have a follow-up meeting with the next of kin to discuss. And then I do have to say that our outreach team remains in contact with the next of kin for any needs. And in fact, when we did the community event, we had a lot of next of kin that came. So we kind of played by ear. Some people, when the participant die, they want to move on, and so we don't push it. But we have some people that remain very close to the team, and so we do follow up with them with, they text, but we do, but the vast majority, usually we give the ashes back and we pay for cremation, which is, again, it's something that the IRB at the beginning, they were a little bit concerned about because it's a big, it's like $1,000, and there were some IRB members that thought that it was kind of borderline coercive. But then again, this is another, occasion where the community really pushed back and said, like, I think that's the minimum we can do if we ask someone to give the body. And so we were able to get IRB approval for cremation. And so. So Jules, hi.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I just have a very narrow kind of question because, I'm familiar with the work on this study. I remember when it started years ago. So my question is, you mentioned that we're able to identify how much virus is in specific reservoirs. And I thought, uh, if that's really true, because isn't it true that we're really unable to evaluate actually how much virus is any given reservoir in any given reservoir?
So that's a very good point, Jules. And you raise a question that there is no perfect assay to measure the reservoir, right? Like we can measure the total size of the HIV DNA. We can measure the size of the intact. We can measure cell-associated RNA. We can measure how much virus we can grow out of the cells. And every assay gives us a different information. You're probably right that none gives us a perfect answer to the question. But I think, so first of all, the combination of the assay gives us an idea about what we're looking at. And it also depends on the question that we are asking, right? Like if we want to know, like, but I think you're right. Like I agree with you that there is not a perfect way to measure the size of the reservoir, but I think there are multiple assays that get close enough, and we try to run as many assays as possible so that we can have, a picture.
Well, I just want to suggest maybe it would be helpful to discuss the study with a broader base of community than I see in your pictures. And I know who you do deal with in the community.
No, yes, and we are really open. Like we are open to everyone that wants to be part, right? Like obviously we have our own community advisory board in San Diego, which is super involved. We also have community member joining from across. Tom Villa, for example, he's in DC and he's part of our community advisory board. We have the Hope Community Advisory Board with Patricia, who is involved. We do the best we can. And
but I saw the picture is almost 99% white.
I know. And that's unfortunate. And we are working as much as we can to change that.
Okay, thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, so I've seen Sarah's presentation several times, and I always enjoy it. She does such a great job, and just as she says, she goes in the middle of the night all the time to attend these autopsies, and so it's tremendous dedication. I did want to just speak up and impart to Jules' point and say that the genesis of Last Gift in part was to address what the National NeuroAIDS Tissue Consortium wasn't doing as well as the Last Gift could do. And so, just as Sarah said, following people up until the time of death, performing a rapid autopsy, and what they've done is really, I think, shifted the conversation for the NNTC as well. But the NNTC continues, and there are complementary aspects to what the NNTC does to what the Last Gift does. And one of those is that it's multi-site instead of San Diego. And I know Sarah's working to bring on new sites for Last Gift as well. But NNTC has sites in New York and St. Louis with inactive, not currently enrolling sites in Texas and Los Angeles as well. And so, I think, working together in this complementary way, both, I think, brings in more people. And I think it helps address different objectives in the field. And so the things that Last Gift does very well and the things that NNTC does well. So Sarah won't be surprised that I spoke up. I just wanted to speak up in in a positive and collaborative way about how the two projects are, I think, both important, and just huge admiration for what Sarah and Davey have accomplished with the Last Gift program.
And Scott, I totally agree with you. And I want to really say that we as Last Gift, we would love to, train another site. Like we have been available and we had multiple conversations, and I always have the feeling that everyone seems excited until they realize that they have to wake up in the middle of the night, and then we always get ghosted. And like I agree, like maybe one of the answers to diversify the cohort, now we're going to Brazil because they are really excited about it. But if we had a site in the US on the East Coast, maybe we could diversify it without even going to Brazil. So I would love to train more people. Like we have protocol, we have been working on this for so long. I just need someone committed enough to do it. And it's a heavy lifting. I'm not lying.
So
Yeah.
to just add on to what Scott said, and thank you, Scott and Sarah, and you and Davey and the whole team, fantastic work. We have rapid autopsy here, but again, you're right, it's for pancreatic cancer, not for other things. But to amplify on what Scott talked about, at the NNTC, we can, if you request it, we can pull fresh stuff. It's not within 6 hours. And, just to let everybody know, for 25 years, we've been enrolling people in end of life. We have frozen and fixed tissue and blah, blah, blah. But we also have all the Last Gift tissue. So after Sarah and her team are done with their autopsies, it all goes to CNTN, which is where Scott's at. And it's all in the NNTC repository. So if you are interested, talk to Sarah, talk to us. It's a resource. So just wanted to point that out. And thank you, Scott and Sarah.
Any other questions?
I'll get along for the
Any
better,
other
for the better of our participants and the field, I think is ultimately. Sorry, Leah, to speak.
No, I was just gonna say, are there any other questions? I know, Sarah, you may be able to squeeze in your video, or you can hold off. Yeah.
It's 8 minutes and we only have 5 left. So let me put it in chat.
That'd be great.
Yes, I highly recommend watching the video. We're doing another one right now featuring Jim. This was featuring Michael. This video is very sciencey, the new video, and I'm very excited about it. It will be the journey of the tissue. It will be more from a community participant perspective. And the goal is really to make sure that people understand, what's behind the tissue, right? Like the human part, because that's my worst nightmare, right? When people email me and say, hey, I need tissue. And, like sometimes I get requests from tissue. I get so many. And some people, I feel like they only care about the tissue. And that's kind of already turning me off, right? Like I was like, Last Gift is so much more. So if you want my attention, usually you have to start with, oh my God, you have such a great program. I cannot believe, blah, 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 blah. And then, and so this is why we're doing this, because I want people to know that like when you ask for tissue, you're not really getting, some cells, right? You're getting someone's, this is someone that donated their body. This is someone that put themselves in a very vulnerable situation to be, on a table with like 15 people cutting pieces out because they want to contribute. And this is so important to me. And so I'm very excited about this one. Yeah.
I know we recorded your video, but we can also, I think, post a link to your video if you want to kind of keep it with it so that it can be seen. We can do that.
Oh, in the record, yes, because I put it.
Yeah, so we post it and then we can just put the link there so people, or we can just link them back wherever you want.
Yeah,
but
I think that would be great because I think the video does a wonderful job in really convening. It's very touching, and there is like the community voices and the participant voices. So,
Anybody else? If not, Sarah, I just want to thank you again. I mean, it's remarkable what you're doing. Before I think, Caroline, do you want to just mention for next week? I think we have Yanshun Shu and Arrow Corpella, who are speaking kind of in the lines. I don't know what was eventually called. Do you know?
It's Beyond the Virus, how ART and non-ART drugs shape neuropsychiatric health in people with HIV.
Well, I think I came up with that one.
All
right.
did too.
I basically tried to cover both people without they'll have their own titles, but that will be for next week. So hopefully we will see everybody again. Sarah, thank you so much. Bye all.